Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Catarino and I am a current student at Appalachian State University and I'm studying elementary education with a double minor in psychology and history. And today we'll be talking about some of the problems that are in the world of distance learning and how as educators and future educators we can look to resolve some of those issues. So for our topics of discussion, today we'll start by talking about the introduction of distance learning and why it's been prevalent in the recent weeks. And then we will also talk about the three main issues that prohibit students from thriving in distance learning, which include students' mental health, technology problems, and then the rise of cheating in online distance learning. And then we will wrap up with why we need to address these issues and then how we can realistically implement some change in the world of education. So to start off with the introduction of distance learning, this has become extremely prevalent in the last few years, mostly because of the COVID-19 outbreak. COVID was very unexpected and people kind of didn't know what to do when it reached, the United States, and no one really knew what that meant for us and our students. So it was very unexpected, and distance learning was sort of used as a band-aid to kind of address some of the big problems going on. And this solution was not designed with the assumption that we would be in online distance learning for like a year and a half at least. So most people just thought that in 2 to 3 weeks things would kind of go away and we could go back to normal. And education learning is not different. People thought that we would be in online school for a couple weeks at most. So the system that we designed does not fit our need, which was, a solution that would last up to a year and a half. So for the past 1.5 years, no one really addressed this system, and we're just still kind of using it, even though it doesn't really make sense for what we need. At first, it was a great, quick solution for the short term, and no one was prepared for it to last as long as we did. So, the question is, why didn't we, adjust the system for the actual year and a half that we needed it? So, next we have the issue of students' mental health. So a lot of students have noted that online learning, has negatively affected their mental health. On the screen here, I have some quotes from my paper that I wrote. Students indicated that learning at a distance makes them feel confused and depressed, which I'm sure a lot of students can attest to. It's very confusing being in the world of online learning, and there was a lot going on outside of school that was affecting students. And then online learning also requires that students be self-regulated and capable of organizing and controlling their learning processes, which is exceptionally hard for younger students, younger elementary school. They've never had to do that before. Their teacher always tells them what to do and gives them super clear instructions on everything. So with online learning, it's very hard for them to make that transition. And additionally, students just with, lots of things going on in their lives and other mental health problems, it can be really hard for them to prioritize that, especially if it's, been done by the teacher in the past. Teachers are usually super on top of students, on their whiteboards and Promethean slides. They always have due dates coming up, what, things they need to do, steps and stuff like that. And when you're taking that all away, they aren't really prepared for all the work that goes into motivating and self-pacing themselves. So they really struggle with online learning. And then our last quote here, distance learning resulted in lethargy and laziness while attending online lectures, which a lot of students can attest to. At least in my experience, I've had a lot of professors and stuff like that who just record their lectures once and then keep posting the same old lectures, and it gets super hard to want to put effort into the classroom when you feel like your professors aren't doing the same amount of work, putting in the same effort into your education. So it's just very hard to want to get stuff done. And all these mental problems really, show in the students' work when they're not motivated and they're having a hard time dealing with themselves mentally. You can tell in the quality of their work. And, even if they feel like they've put a lot of effort into something, they might feel like they've worked really hard because they just have so many other factors impacting them, but their work, just the quality is not there. Next, we have technological issues. So in this study, students with high and average computer skills were better able to manage their online learning and cope with any technological problems when compared to students with lower skill levels. So this really leaves out students that may not have access to technology at home. They just are already at a disadvantage with online learning. They may not have the experience and the skills that other students have, and they're not even on a level playing field, so they're kind of being set up to fail in a way. And then our next quote here, students are not able to get instant answers to the questions they ask their instructors. There's definitely barriers to communication in online learning. Like instead of just being able to raise a hand and ask a question, if they're in a fully asynchronous class, you got to email and then, you have to wait for the professor to get back to you, and it just kind of causes problems. They feel like they're not being heard and stuff like that. So, there's just a combination of things going on, and this is all, not even considering like if students have access to technology, if the district is able to provide them with technology. That's a whole separate issue that needs to be addressed. But these are just two other little things. We need to find a way to make sure that students are all on a level playing field in terms of technology and are all, set up to succeed. And then lastly, we have the rise of cheating. Cheating is super prevalent in normal classrooms, let alone online ones. You have virtual impersonation. Someone could be taking a test for a student, like an older sister, a friend, older mom, dad, stuff like that. So it puts a lot of stress on teachers to have to deal with this, and it leaves students to get left behind. If they're submitting work that's not their own, how would anyone know that that student is really struggling with something? And then we have features such as logins, timers, question randomizers, and blocking multitasking are effective only in certain situations with certain assignments, and only if they can be supervised. So while these features can be helpful sometimes, there's just no way to know if a student's work is their own, and if they're cheating, if they're not. So this is super prevalent in normal classrooms and especially in online learning. So why we need to correct these issues. So online learning, with it, some things can tend to go in one ear and out the other for students, and this causes them to slip through the cracks. They could be cheating and stuff like that, and no one would know, and then they're getting promoted to the next grade level without the knowledge they need, which is, waste students' time, waste teachers' time. And we also need to correct this because our students deserve better. They deserve to have an experience similar to in-person learning. They deserve to thrive in their classrooms and all that. So we just need to take the time to address these problems because our students and our future, teachers, lawyers, doctors, and stuff, they need to be set up for success. So we need to put time in and invest in our education system and fix these problems for them. So in terms of policy, first we need to provide students and teachers with adequate mental health resources. So this gives students a chance of staying motivated, it helps them stay proactive in their learning, and it gives them resources they may be missing, such as like guidance counselors would be in a normal year. This also requires students to be held accountable because if you provide them with these resources and you give them an opportunity to improve their mental health, they can't use that as an excuse anymore. So I think that would solve a lot of problems in terms of mental health. And then we also need to incentivize our educators, motivating them to create new and creative content and engage students. We don't want them just reusing old lectures because it's easy. So this will increase engagement, and of course, teacher pay is a whole nother issue, but rewarding them for their time and effort would really help students be engaged, and it would give them more of an in-person feel. And then in terms of technology, we need to train our students on it so that they can all be on a level playing field. And then we also need to provide specific and clear instructions for assignments and troubleshooting. This will, help make our time more effective, and it'll also give them steps to do if something goes wrong. And then for our anti-cheating resources, we have things like Turnitin and Lockdown browsers for formal assignments. This will, help prevent cheating as much as it can. And I also think that in terms of informal assignments, students need to be taught about intrinsic motivation and natural consequences, and you just need to remind them that if they don't do their informal assignments, then they're going to fail other things. And this natural consequence will help encourage them to do their work, and it also takes stress off of the teacher. So they're not worried about anti-cheating all the time, just on these formal assignments. So these policy changes will help give students more of an in-person feel, and it'll overall improve distance learning if we ever need to use it again in the future.